for the code, 1923.
1923.
23. So quite some time ago, which is cool. So this is a pretty straightforward motion here. If we're okay with, I don't know where it can go in the building yet, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's just generous family donation.
We
Absolutely.
have a few things we need to find homes for.
Sure do.
Is a good spot for that?
Yeah, maybe.
Where?
That wall.
Man on the wall.
That wall. Well, we use that for.
Well, we should take those. Sarah will be.
No, you can't take rabbit.
It's up too high.
Oh, we can lower it.
Yeah, I mean, no one even knows what it is. I want to put it so you
It
can see
needs
it.
to be put up longer wire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like
Instead of
that.
hanging on.
Up on that wood, right?
That's the way I hang pictures. Just sort of jam it in the wall and hope for the best.
And it's crooked.
It is good.
I use a level on mine.
That's because the building
Do you?
is seven.
Yeah, I check. I check. That's fine. So there is a draft motion there for this historic photo. If one of my colleagues wishes to read that.
I move to accept the donation of a historic photo of the town of Dunstable and the townspeople from Stephen Hunt, and further move that the board send a letter of acceptance and thanks to Mr. Hunt.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I guess Leah seconded it, but all those in favor?
Aye.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, thought so.
I mumbled it right under my
I
breath.
saw your voice talking without noise.
The 350th, I think, is talking about redoing that picture on the.
Oh, really?
Common for the,
Oh, good.
yeah, I mean, it's just what I heard, you know,
Timing's going to be everything. Just get it before July 1. Everyone just abandons.
They need somebody that can take a picture with a drone.
Is it Jeff Katz? Was it Jeffrey Katz? What's his name? Some guy does drone pictures in Dunstable.
It was him.
It was him, right?
Yeah.
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 He just has some beautiful aerial
We
photos
did,
in
yeah.
town. They're
Drone
awesome.
pictures.
Oh, they're so cool.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to not see that our state representative has been able to join us yet.
She might be stuck in Groton.
It sounds like she may be stuck in our neighboring town. Why don't we take the moment or the time to open up discussion on responses to the long-term lease of land for rental housing development at 160, 164 Pleasant Street RFP. The discussion, review, and finalize rankings, consideration of next steps. We may take a vote on this topic. We have one of our members from our Affordable Housing Committee as well. I'm also a member of that, but our chair is here in the audience.
You are a member as our representative.
Yeah, I'm also a member. I forget that sometimes. So I guess I'm pretty well versed in this topic because I've spent a lot of time with some of the interested developers and respondents as well as the committee. So I'm going to let you guys sort of run with this discussion for now in terms of any thoughts, feelings, or actions you have on this topic.
Ron, you can kick it off.
Okay, let me just ask this, let me say this about that, right? It looks as though this motion is to invite both vendors into select board meetings to go through their RFP. Is that?
And/or,
And/or. Is that what,
whatever we choose.
is that where this process is at right now?
Well,
We can choose.
yeah.
If we feel comfortable choosing, we have that ability. If we want to discuss anything further with both of them or just one of them, we can do that as well.
You know, the task of the Affordable Housing Committee was to provide us with their ranking and evaluation of the two respondents. We were lucky to have two. They shared with us those rankings. We had some homework from our previous meeting to go through each proposal and sort of get some of our own collective feedback on it. In terms of what we're discussing right now would be our discussion on it. And then we could review those rankings sort of simultaneously. But we want to, I think our goal is to finalize this and then likely take a vote tonight to move forward with one of the respondents, unless you don't feel satisfied by some question.
So the only thing that, I mean, I didn't bring my booklets with me, but the only thing that I did not see in those booklets was a financial impact statement on how the project affects the town. Is there one in those booklets?
No.
No, but the consultant provided that separately prior.
Right, and
We had one of them done when the last project that didn't want to go through.
yeah, but it'll vary because this is different from that one.
It's the same number of units essentially.
It's, you know,
That's
same stuff, different day. It's,
because that, I mean, yeah, yeah, you know what? That's probably about right, John. Yeah. But I think I'd like to just make sure that we have an updated numbers on financial impact. That's not to say that it's going to skew the decision-making process at this point. This is a business decision. We need to know our numbers.
In terms of what?
Financial impact to the town.
Like, is there more behind saying financial impact? Like, what's sort of I only ask because we have timelines we have to be aware of with the RFP.
Yep.
And so do the respondents. So, and I guess I wasn't thinking we were going to be rehashing, like traffic count, things like that. I don't think that was part of the goal here, but I forgot about Carol's also on that committee too. Of course, I look right past you. How rude.
I think we have enough
There
information.
is nothing in the RFP that requests a financial impact.
Right.
And you should not be making a decision
Right.
on financial impact. You make it on a decision of
What?
what's in that and what we asked them to do and how they came up with it on the rankings.
Yeah, but the financial impact impacts the town. And, as I said, we need to know our numbers.
I know that.
It's part of the decision-making
It's not part of the RFP, so we can't now go back and say they're required to provide that info.
But we do have a consultant.
We have a consultant that provided information
Did she give us those
previously.
numbers?
Yeah,
I didn't see them.
well, it's been a couple of years.
Oh, no, not the first consultant, because I think she ended up never finishing the project.
Oh, that was a different thing.
Judy?
Judy Barrett, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. She never finished the job.
No, but they've since had another person provide information.
But you really can't make a decision on the financial impact. I know you feel like you should, but you can't according to the.
To the RFP.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but in terms of the project, it's, what its viability is to the town in terms of dollars.
Well, they've provided information regarding the proposed amount of real estate.
Yeah. What's it gonna cost us to keep this thing going year over
Doesn't
year?
matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter. You put it in there. If it impacts you poorly, that's what happens with it. But
We have requirements for affordable housing. This is a project that gets us to that goal.
you like it or not.
Oh, I get that, but we should know our numbers, right? If we're gonna sign on to this thing and we're instantly into having to come up with money to support it, we should know that number before we sign on to it.
No.
I don't think that's
Oh, yeah.
the deal, Ron. It's not the way this RFP is written, and
The way the RFP is written, it outlines the selection process and the rule for award. And the next step in that process is for the board to rank each proposal. Based on that ranking, determine who, if any of them, you'd like to come back to invite for an interview in front of the board. it also states that you can invite other committees or boards or staff to participate in those interviews or attend the interviews, however you'd like
Sure.
that to take place. And then based on the of course, the proposal, the rankings, the interview, select a preferred developer to then sit down and enter negotiations on
We're at step two,
a land use
basically.
agreement
Right.
and a lease. And so that kind of in order is the process that's outlined in the RFP.
You provided an outline for us at one point on that, Jason.
Yeah. So again, just to circle back, though I understand the question of wanting our own fiscal financial analysis for the town, in terms of what we're looking to do tonight, I don't believe that falls into the evaluation of either proposal. So I think what we should be focusing on is the uniqueness of each proposal. And then we discuss the said proposals in front of us, and then we each sort of are tasked with some homework to evaluate them numerically, and then look to move forward with one of them in hopes of getting Dunstable some affordable housing down the road. Obviously, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but in the future, ideally near future.
Well, getting ready to roll.
But how would you like? Yes, Joe.
Ron, so Ron, what's gonna make you happy here is, we're gonna have to hire another, feasibility study to,
No, we have a consultant already. We just want her to refresh the numbers. That's all.
That's not called for at this point, Ron.
But we have a consultant, right, that's working for us?
I mean, Goldson is not going to give us a fiscal analysis on the impact of 59 or 44 affordable housing unit counts in town. She is an expert in reviewing the responses that you get when a town pushes out an RFP. I believe each of the two groups that responded did share with us sort of tax revenue expectation. By design, the 3-bed counts, if that's something that I know gravitates to the concern level, they're smaller units by design, so that it's not, tons and tons of dense living situations down there. So I don't know what type, simultaneously, we could, on our next meeting, ask for the town to rehash those numbers. But
This board can do that, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that in terms of, that's part of the decision-making process, is we need to understand how much what, if anything, it's gonna cost us to keep that thing going.
If I remember correctly, the fiscal analysis that was done a couple years ago showed that the tax revenue brought in slightly exceeded the expenses that were projected to the town. And obviously, the projected expenses were mostly school support. And they had a hard time trying to discern exactly how many students would be there. But based on their estimate with regional averages, it was, the expenses were not as great as the income.
I mean, it's going to be a floating number from year to year, no matter what.
It is.
So I mean, that
And
you
that-
can get an answer today and get a different one in 2 months. It's so,
It can't impact your decision about which one of those you're going to take. That's all it is to it.
I agree with you. And, and Jason just explained the steps that we need to be taking, and we're at that step right now where we do the evaluation based on what was in the RFP. And
Which is very, it was in the RFP.
very
It's
clear.
very clear and specific on what, at this point in the process, the proposals are supposed to be evaluated on. The criteria there's, how many are there? 15 or so, 14 criteria that are supposed to be the basis of the evaluation at the moment.
aside from that, is there any other thoughts or feelings you have on either project?
Not really.
So you don't measure one versus the other?
Yeah, I do. What's the recommendation from affordable housing?
The affordable housing numeric ranking was in favor of MCO versus Arch Communities. And we spent several meetings discussing that. I did not participate in the numeric ranking because I knew it would come before us here. But that group spent a lot of time.
Oh, yeah, they did.
And spent a lot of effort with the outside consultant and, with each group sort of making an evaluation type process.
Yeah. I mean, that RFP and their work weighs heavily in this decision-making process. It just does.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, you sat in on those meetings, we certainly had some discussions along the way, but the recommendation from that board is the recommendation. I have no reason to say not to engage with them or not to participate with that recommendation. It's, it's what it is.
Well, one of the criteria was also the select board individually on our own time ranking and determining if we had a preference for us to discuss tonight as an agenda item. So I'd like for us to get to that point, because I think that's important that we do that with audience members, which is great, both here and online, so they can hear what we have to think about these proposals. If you're comfortable to do that. Or
Well, I can start if you like, Ron.
Yep.
I went through the process and repeatedly, and I eventually came up with like a 2-point on my final draft. I had many drafts. I came up with a final ranking of 36 for Arch and 39 for MCO.
If I may suggest that I think the board should go through each individual item and rank each individual proposal. And try, similar to what the Affordable Housing Committee did.
Yeah.
As a process, try to get consensus on a number, and if there's disagreement, take a vote on a number.
Yeah.
So that the board has determined the score for each proposal.
Okay, we do that.
We have a rating sheet.
There's one right here.
Do you want me to go print that out here?
or, so I don't have my rating sheet, but I knew my score.
Yeah, that is either.
So I wasn't planning to go through each of the 15 of these because I think that's going to be too time consuming.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of tonight was to have done that work already. So
Then match them up
if,
to each other.
well, if Leah's at 39 to 36 for MCO, I was 42 to 40 for MCO. Because some of the topics in here, as we experience as an affordable housing group, where like, one of them's like the first one, the 25% one, I'm like, well, it's an unfair evaluation point because if you take 25% of 44, it's 11. And if you're only 11 and you're not more than, but we knew the effort of the respondent was to have it be 25%.
And right, so it's,
Like common sense had to
should be
roll forward.
equal
for me.
to or greater,
Yeah,
maybe a semantics
It-
thing.
right,
So
it's-
It
and
met
it's-
the 25%.
yeah.
So, right, for me, that unfortunately, they gave one
Yeah.
point knock on that, but
And it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
within the line, the ruling
It is.
of the text, but
it is what we were asking for.
so we do have affordable housing's ranking, I guess, or Goldson's ranking in here. Ron, do you know what your numbers were?
No, I don't. I didn't bring that rating sheet with me.
Okay. So I guess just for those listening at home, I'll read through the 15 topics in terms of what the comparative evaluation criteria were. But I think that's like chasing our tail, trying to go through
Oh, yeah,
each one.
absolutely it is.
And we have an agenda to also.
Well, yeah, just read through them quickly.
Yep. So number one was development meets the town's affordable housing, mixed income housing objectives for the subject property as stated in this RFP. So we would provide a weighted score ranking here. And, for key discussion points, 20 MCO with 25% of the units to be income restricted at or below 80% of the AMI. Arch was more than 50% of the units to be affordable to different ranges of income. I think theirs was 30-60. So on that rating, and again, because of sort of semantics within the wording, the consultant gave Arch a 6 and MCO received a 0. When we had further discussion with each individual group about this, it's not, though this is the way it's written, it's not the best way to actually evaluate that criteria. And we as an affordable housing group discussed that and, felt there was some, nuances to the wording within that realm. The second criteria was development provides maximized unit counts that are on the SHI. So each of the groups did that. Each of them have more than 40 units that'll count towards the town's affordable housing index there, which is great. Number 3, development includes housing for special needs populations. This was comparable again from the consultants, expertise. We did sort of dig deeper into this, whether they were going to steer housing towards veterans or underrepresented groups, things like that. And some of that might come up in the discussion for us as a board, where we hoped to expand our veteran housing or underrepresented group housing, things of that nature, that I'm sure developments of affordable housing will be game to try to participate in and make that successful. Number 4 was development concept demonstrates thoughtful consideration of the site and the appropriate scale and style. There are actually 2 different styles. Arch was had one large building and then similar townhouses nearby within the development behind the post office. MCO was small, cozy cottages. There's one I drove through over in Devons, near the Army base, that sort of had these smallish homes, nice front porches, but it had a nice green zone in the middle. You could kick a soccer ball, have a movie night out there, throw a Frisbee. MCO in particular received a higher scoring here because they also looked to incorporate some nature trails in the back area, as well as some communal parking. So that was important to us, I think, as a group. And I'm paraphrasing and looking at my group members in case I'm misstepping here. Number 5, so this is similar. Site layout considers the existing constraints and infrastructure needs. These were equal evaluations. The catch here is that we've heard from some neighbors in the area that there is some water concerns. The town, of course, does not want to have houses to flood, but neither of them had basements, so they were on slabs. So this will either create a huge water problem or not a water problem at all. And it's really, the expertise of the construction group to know this better than I ever will. I'm not an engineer. I'm not working an excavator or understanding how water drains off the swale or natural vegetation. So these groups would each have to be thoughtful here. Number 6, proposed design meets the sustainability objectives of the site. Similar rankings. They both are looking to do that and be efficient with the stretch energy codes. The one concern of mine is the cost of electricity, because it's all going to be electrical heating, HVAC. That's through the roof. Someone who also has a huge electrical bill myself. It's not a great feeling. Yeah. But maybe there's some things to be learned from that down the road. Number 7 asks for sufficient parking for building residents. We thought that this was done adequately by both groups. The consultant gave a more slightly favorable ranking to MCO. And I think this is because Arch also had talked about bike and screens for parking areas. You know, as a select board, we could discuss this with MCO or with Arch, whichever group, you know, we feel more strongly about. I'm going to say MCO because that's what the affordable housing group had opted to move forward with. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Number 8, developer exhibits a willingness to work with the community. We have some local connections to MCO, which is a real positive aspect. Arch is a much larger group. They do big projects. Personally, I'm a little surprised that they would be interested in such a small count, but they had a creative approach, and they've been pretty willing to respond to us over time. But the consultant felt that the local connection to MCO, a neighbor, that's an important aspect of working with the town and for such an important project. Number 9, development project provides outdoor amenities, both similar ranking, as I said, you know, soccer field, Frisbee, local gardens, walkways, you know, communal parking. I think MCO demonstrated this better, in my opinion. I see my Affordable Housing Trust person nodding his head in agreement, I hope. So I thought that was important to actually see it and to share it with prospective residents here that are participating in our meetings. Number 10, developer identifies anticipated traffic mitigation measures, including bicycle and pedestrian improvements. The consultant gave MCO a positive 2 to Arch Communities 0 on this. The reason being the MCO developer provided an analysis of changes in traffic circulation. But Arch, unfortunately, this was not a part of their response to the RFP. This has come up with some of our residents that joined us for meetings because of getting onto 113 in the morning can be intense, especially during high school rush hours and things like that. So some thoughtfulness into this. I personally don't want to stop right there, so I don't even want to go down that road. Literally, no pun intended. Try a little humor, right? Everyone's just staring at me like a teacher. Number 11, quality of proposed property management approach and provision of services to support low-income residents. Equal ranking from the consultant. Both of these groups are more than qualified to manage affordable housing units. Not much more to be said there. This is things that they do day to day. This is their cup of tea. So, number 12, developer specifies how noise, traffic, construction debris will be mitigated during the construction phase. Both of these developers, per the consultant that we worked with, demonstrated the ability to mitigate, wash down the trucks, keep dust off the roadway, you know, be sensitive to the neighbors in the area. Number 13 was developers' business location importance. This was slightly more favorable by the consultant's ranking for MCO. Their headquarters are in nearby Harvard, which is about 13 and a half miles from Dunstable. And this met the criteria because it's within 15 miles, was a criteria component. Unfortunately, Arch is outside that. They're in Needham, so they did not receive as favorable a ranking. Number 14, provision of public amenities or other benefits. Again, this was positive to MCO compared to Arch. Arch didn't really illustrate any other public benefit, but, you know, MCO highlighted some of the rail access, you know, Lake Massapog back there, and some real positive things that we all enjoy about being in that area, the Salmon Brook area. So that's my summary of those. It's a lot of talking for me. So does that open us up for any more discussion as a board in terms of what you were thinking, Leah? And then I'll look to Ron after that.
Well, I think I sort of fell along the same lines of what you said, that I ended up with a lower number, I guess. most of the categories, I actually gave them equal weight.
Mhm.
The things that stood out with me really were, like what you had mentioned, the local connections with the private funding, I think is a benefit. The individual units, them all essentially having first floor bedrooms, though it's not specifically for handicapped or, the older groups that may be living there, it certainly does make it a more livable arrangement. The communal parking, the trails, the gardens were shown on the plan, so we know for sure that those would be incorporated in, though MCO did speak to it.
Mhm.
Certainly something anybody could work into their plan.
Yeah,
I did appreciate having that preliminary traffic study done as well. Essentially, those were the main things that gave them the 1 point edge, and the ones that both did a fantastic job. They really, I kind of struggled with this, and Kieran's looking at my chart, and I have things scratched out like 15 times.
Yeah.
Had to keep rereading it, and, when you come to the end of the day, you end up focusing on just a couple things to see what pushes you over the fence. And those were really the things that did it for me.
Ron?
So when I went through this, a lot of that criteria, in my opinion, had some good grounding to it. My scoring sheets at home. But in general, I think the MCO proposal fits nicer. I think it fits, from the housing style of the smaller buildings. I think it looks more quaint. It's my own opinion. Parking and all those other things, I think they have all that worked out. And so my part of my mind says to me that they're gonna look better when it's built out down there. That's what I think, from going through the methods of construction and what the buildings are gonna look like. So they were my choice between the two of them. I agree, Arch is hooked up with Wynn. There's definitely some issues with Wynn and the way they manage some of their properties. And I would not want to bring some of those problems here, and that's a different discussion, but they're a much bigger company, a little bit more impersonal, a little bit more corporate style. And so, I balance those two things out. They would score lower, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So I had shared my personal opinion as well as sort of the summary from the expert that we looked to as a town. Is there anything else our affordable housing group feels strongly that I did not summarize correctly in your opinions?
You gave it a good summary, and I'm thrilled that you are accepting our recommendation.
I have nothing to believe contrary to that. I don't. I mean, it's solid thinking, and I think it's going to be a nice looking place. I mean, there's still some decisions need to be made around it, but overall, I think that they would be the horse in the game, or the horse in the race.
The donkey in the game.
Something like that.
The lead turtle, if you're talking about the mud property. The lead turtle.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully
Yeah.
we're shifting gears here.
Yeah, lead turtle.
So in that vein, I think collectively as a board, we've discussed our feelings for each of the respondents to the RFP. I think collectively we look to the MCO RFP to move forward with. Is there a pre-written motion in here, Jason?
Yeah, I think I can handle
If
that.
you could.
Move to invite MCO Associates to an interview with the Select Board in accordance with the requirements of the RFP issued for a long-term lease of land for rental housing development at 164 Pleasant Street. And further move that we invite members of the Affordable Housing Committee, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Water Commission, Finance Committee, and members of the public to the interview.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We may have crashed on Facebook.
We'll be in touch. By the way, MCO is here, those listening in the audience, shows their dedication to the project, which is great. We'll have Jason or Sue get in touch with you guys for scheduling, but thank you. Yeah.
I posted a new link on the website, if
Oh,
whoever you're talking to.
okay.
There are 9 people on right now, so.
Ooh, all right. It's exciting.
How many people?
9 people watching at home.
9.
9, yeah. It's exciting.
Right.
So we are at the 5:53 hour here. We're a few minutes ahead of number 6, which is local initiative program LIP development proposal for 41 Lowell Street. I have not heard an update from the Scarsdale office. I imagine they may have been wrangled up by the town of Groton. I think she was joining their meeting tonight as well. But we could always look to reschedule with her. Maybe that's the best way to look at it.
Yep.
Are our friends from the 41 Lowell Street project ready to roll, or do you need a couple more minutes? Do you want us to move out of the way for this presentation? What's the best way to engage for this?
Where's your backdrop from the digital images? That wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as everyone can see, I'm.
Yeah.
Want to come with you, stay in your seats?
Cool, okay.
Yeah.
These guys need to introduce
Can you send
Oh,
me what
yeah.
you want projected and I
them
can?
on the record. but
Okay.
I actually,
I don't know who they are.
If you guys would please, whoever's speaking, just tell us who you are. And if you're working with, if you're not from town, just say Kieran Meehan from XYZ Consulting or whatever the group may be called, just so we know who we're talking to.
And just so we know, for the people at home, is that like where we want to speak into?
Yes.
Is this about pick us up?
Yeah,
Right.
it's pretty audible. You'll hear me sniffle, so we get to.
Where would you like us to sit?
Yeah, that one? All right.
Is it a new link under live access?
Yes. If they go under on our channel and they go to live, they'll see it.
Okay.
we can see ourselves now. Let's
I
see.
know. Can't see me?
That's what.
Just a voice in the clouds.
I just sent it to her, so I'm sure you'll see it together.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you hook into your HDMI port.
Does that have an HDMI? The Apple?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. And that will shoot up there,
Yes.
just as a heads up.
Whatever's easiest for you. I don't want to get into
Yeah.
There's little by 17 copies of the architectural drawings, I'm trying to make notes or anything.
Yeah, thank you. We can take these with us or give them back?
Yes,
All right.
yeah, thanks. I'll just be in just a couple minutes.
All right.
You guys got a copy of the give you a copy of the impact study.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
39 or 40?
I just said 39, but you're right. I think it's a number of zeros.
Yeah.
39, 41.
Dunstable, that means something. Every 20 feet is a new house number
Yeah.
based on a fire code.
Random.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's weird.
So I'm ready if the board is.
we are.
I'm gonna have folks just refocus up here. Again, just please introduce yourself. We don't know who everyone is. We'd like to know who you are. So, yeah, go for it.
So thank you very much, members of the board. My name is Attorney Jesse Schomer. I'm with the law firm of Rignanti Stereo. Our office is in Wakefield, Massachusetts. With me tonight is representatives from the developer owner of this proposed project, Matt McGovern and Jim Tully. Also with us tonight, Dan Schmolsky of DMS Design LLC out of Peabody. We have representation from our civil engineer, Kelly Engineering Group. I believe Mark in the corner there just raised his hand. And we have other members of the team who are not represented tonight, which you'll be introduced to at further meetings in the future.
Excellent.
But this is the crew for tonight. If I may, I'll just be very brief and
Yeah,
take up
absolutely.
a few minutes of your time to give the broad strokes. I won't steal anybody's thunder in any Dan's over here. He'll do most of the heavy lifting, and then we'll go to Mark to talk a little bit about the site civil engineering of what we're proposing. But in a broad sense, what we're proposing tonight is this is the first meeting, obviously, for a proposed LIP proposal, which is it's an acronym for Local Initiative Program. It's a Form of 40B project, which is a cooperative development between a developer, represented tonight by Matt and Jim, and the town, where both parties, if the town sees eye to eye with us on this project, you would file a joint application with the developer for approval of the project under the 40B statute with the state Department of Housing and Community Development. I'll just go through my slides here. I've just got a few for an overview here. So this slide is showing a superimposed image of the project site here. I'll go to the overview. This is an overview of the site here, a Google Maps Google Earth image. Can everybody see me? I don't want to get in the way of anybody. There's a audience there. I've noted the site here with the red pin, so you can see Lowell Street coming off to the right of the plan. Route 113 going up here to Mass Route 3 on the right side of the plan here. We've got Dunstable Town Center and Town Hall where we are tonight over here. So as you can see, it's pretty centrally located within Dunstable, probably about 3 minutes from where we're standing tonight, and good access to transit here via Route 3, which takes you up to New Hampshire, down to Boston, and across if residents of the project will be going to use public transportation, which would be the Lowell MBT commuter rail station. I'll zoom in a little bit here. This is a closer image of the project site here. This is the main portion of the development site here, the gravel farm site, which as you can see is all primarily disturbed. It's not fresh land, which has not been disturbed previously. This swath of land here, as you'll see here, I'm highlighting, this is an electrical easement. You see the electrical wires going across the property here. This roughly marks the southerly portion of the project where we're proposing to develop here. So everything south of here is wooded, it's wetlands, and we're not proposing to do any work down there. That would be available as potential conservation land, walking trails for residents and members of the public, and really just seeking to concentrate everything in this area here, which is open fields for the most part. So this, once again, this is the conceptual site rendering, and I'll leave this to Dan and Mark to go through the details of this. The proposed entrance is here on Lowell Street, just off of the junction of Main Street and Lowell Street. We're proposing a boulevard-style access here, which comes into the site, And you see the first buildings you'll see here are a set of single-family style condominium units. That portion of the site leads to the common clubhouse with the pool, meeting spaces, amenity spaces for residents. And as you see here, you can continue on through the site with a circular driveway, provides full access for fire vehicles, emergency vehicles throughout the site. This is a mix of duplexes and single-family homes down to the side here. Again, another circular drive, and additional duplexes down here. The buildings here, these are 3 proposed multifamily rental buildings, which would house 41 units, and 42 units respectively. And at the bottom of the site here, we're proposing a series of covered garage spaces for residents for some additional parking in addition to the surface parking here. There's parking in each of the buildings, as Dan will go over with you in a moment, as well as each of the units having its own internal parking and driveway parking. So the site metrics of this proposal is it's roughly 68 acres. This site was identified by the town on your 2016 housing production plan as a developable site for affordable housing. The proposal for you tonight is for 156 total apartments and condominium units, and I'll go through how those are broken out on the next slide. The total number of parking spaces would be 356, which is more than 2 per unit. And as I mentioned previously, there's a proposed common clubhouse with a pool. The green markers here, which you'll see going this way and that way around, these are proposed walking trails, and there's availability to go down south of the plan here as well as other opportunities for town improvements, which would be potential conservation land to the south of the site, and improvement of the town DPW property here. So the breakdown of the proposed project that we're presenting tonight would be, as I mentioned, a mix of single-family style and duplex style condominium units throughout the site. The proposal is for 32 condominium units, which consists of 12 duplexes for a total of 24 units, plus the 8 single-family style units, primarily to this side of the site here. The 3 apartment buildings, building 1, 2, and 3, as I mentioned, 41 units, and 42 for a total of 124 apartments, as well as the common clubhouse with the meeting rooms, exercise room, and swimming pool. This is a slide that actually was not in the version that I sent to Jason earlier, so I'll update that with him. And there's a lot of text here, so I won't read every word, but I'll send this to you after my presentation so you can go through the details. But one of the members of our team is a gentleman by the name of Mark Fougere of Fougere Planning and Development. And his whole business is assessing the fiscal impact of projects like this. I've worked with him a number of times. And what his method is, and it's outlined in his report, which we'll provide to the town for your review and assessment, is he takes a database that he has access to of similar projects in various communities of similar size as Dunstable all around the state, as well as up in New Hampshire. And he uses that database, and he goes back to these projects and he assesses what was the tax revenue that's generated by each of them. What is the excise tax revenue that's generated by the vehicles from these new projects? What is the revenue from new water that the town could sell to these residents by connecting to town water? And those figures are added up here. Mark is projecting $1.691 million in new revenue to the town. To assess the fiscal impact of the project, he weighs that additional revenue against likely and anticipated and projected demand for town services. And that's also based on the number of units, the type of development, which is a proposed 55 plus age restricted apartments and condominium units. His assessment based on the metrics of the project are approximately $20,000 in police services, so calls to emergency services, need for police vehicles to come out to respond to emergencies. Similar for fire, approximately $40,000, a little bit over $7,000 for the Council on Aging. I'm not certain what his abbreviation here is, MILS now, but it's accounted for in his report. And as I mentioned, we'll be providing a copy of that to you. He's also projecting approximately $400,000 in new revenue to the town for water. I'm sorry, that's use of the water here. So the total fiscal impact of the project that Mark is projecting is approximately $491,000. So when you subtract that from the 1.691 million, he's projecting approximately $1.2 million in annual fiscal benefit to the town of Dunstable based on this project and the new residents that are coming.
So I have one question on the Council on Aging number. That would probably go up over time as expectations increase with what services you offer to people as they age, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this would be first year out of the gate after this project would say everything was completed?
Right, so, yeah,
Okay.
this is what his
okay.
general projection is. And I think part of that takes into account, this is age restricted at 55 plus. A lot of residents for projects like this will be older than that significantly. So
Yeah.
there will be significant demand on council on aging stuff.
As it should be.
As it should be.
Folks say you want to make sure you're providing good services to resources,
Right.
et cetera.
So the details are all, as I mentioned, it's all in Mark's report and that will be provided to you. So I won't go into the weeds too much on that. We can certainly have future meetings with the board if you'd like to go in on the details, I'm sure you will. Going on to the next slide. As I mentioned previously, the proposal tonight is for a LIP 40B project. The way that the process for the LIP project works is, as I mentioned, it's a joint application between a developer and a community for approval by the Department of Housing and Community Development for a finding of site and project eligibility. At this point in time, my projection, based on how busy DHCD is, approximately 60 to 90 days. If the board were to vote to approve, to enter into a LIP agreement with the developer, roughly 60 to 90 days for review by DHCD. And if they approve the application for issuance of the project eligibility letter, which I've got a typographic error here in the presentation, I apologize. It's abbreviated PEL. Once the PEL is issued, if DHCD does issue that letter, the next step in the process is for the applicant and the developer to file an application with the Zoning Board of Appeals. The application to the Zoning Board of Appeals is for what's called a comprehensive permit. And the reason why it's called a comprehensive permit is because it's comprehensive of all local permits, approvals, findings that are necessary for construction of the project under all local bylaws and regulations. So the application that we would be filing with the Zoning Board of Appeals would seek approval of the project under all of those local bylaws to the extent necessary to construct the project. The timeline for the zoning board's review of the 40B project, whether it's a LIP or non-LIP project, would be 30 days to open a public hearing on the application, 180 days after that to conduct the hearing, and after that, 40 days to issue a written decision. And these dates are all flexible. They can be agreed upon. They can be extended if necessary by agreement of the board and the applicant if there's additional information that needs to be received by the zoning board to conclude the hearing. The final step in the process is for the developer to file applications for any other state and federal permits that might be necessary for the project. So I've outlined here specifically the order of conditions because there is a significant amount of wetlands on the site and we would be within the buffer zone for those wetlands. The comprehensive permit process does not encompass any state or federal permits. Those are separately administered through the local boards who would issue those approvals and permits or findings. Here, the order of conditions would be filed separately with the Conservation Commission, separate and apart from the zoning board hearing. So that's hopefully not too long-winded. That's my piece for tonight. I'll hand things over next to Dan Skolsky at DMS Design for an overview of the architecture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, thank you for having us. Dan Skolsky, Managing Principal of DMS Design. We are the architects for the project. And so we'll go through a few details and a few concepts of how we designed this so you can get a better sense of it. So this, as Jesse said, we're a total of 156 units in a variety of building types. We have single-family homes, we've got duplex homes with apartment buildings, freestanding garages, and we have a community building as well. and this is from the driveway. You know, one thing that we thought was, that we worked for on the site was to set this thing back. We don't really want to have a presence on the street. We don't really want you to see us when you drive by. We want the image that you see in there now to be preserved to the best that you can. So we're set very far back inside of the drive. And that said, as we covered earlier, we are also very much in front of the power lines, preserving a lot of the site, a lot of the open space. We want the site to sort of have a feeling of openness like it does now. And so this is a view from when you enter the site through the single family homes on the left, and you can start to see the community building over here. And that building is very important because it's not only a community building for the residents of the site, but it's also going to be open to seniors in the town. So it will function as a town senior center. So we have a dual usage, and we'll go into the floor plans in a second. I'll show you what's in there for that. But that's a real public benefit that the project's bringing to the town, in addition to valuable affordable housing. This is getting a little closer to the what we call the clubhouse building, and we worked on this to create a lot of New England vernacular, a lot of what you find in a traditional barn with the gable roofs, with the cupolas, a tower element, stone facing, a porch with a lot of depth and a lot of shadow to it. Very traditional kind of openings that you have in here, and also this is an L-shaped building with different soffit heights, different ridge heights. Really break this down and again work with that barn aesthetic. So this is sort of how you approach that shared clubhouse building. And this is just a little bit of an overview. So again, this is the entry drive coming in. These are single family homes. This is the community building, and then we have a pool area that's attached to it. As Jesse showed in the site plan, more single family homes over here hugging the pond, the apartment buildings, and then duplexes over in this area of the site. We do anticipate a pretty heavy landscaping package with this. A lot of trees coming in, opportunity for gardens and things. We really want these buildings to blend into the site very well. This is a look at some of the duplex units. Again, really working with New England vernacular, gable roofs, overhang roofs, good soffit and break overhangs to get good shadow lines and depth. A fairly neutral palette, whites and blacks and grays. You will have, you'll see as with the architectural elevations, they show a little better. We do have stone bases on these buildings and some stone on the facades that we'll get into a little bit, but really keeping the roofs low and trying to really fit into the site very well.
Is there customization options for those buying like single family homes, or are you trying to stay out of that world?
We prefer to stay out of that world. That gets very messy, very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So right now it would be standardized, but you know we can talk about that as something else.
Or on a bright like electric yellow house.
Yeah, that's not.
Good answer.
So this is again the entry drive that we have, a little bit of a turnaround and parking over here. As Jesse said, we have plenty of parking on the site. We have a total of 177 covered parking spaces. So every single family home has covered parking in the form of a garage. Every duplex has covered parking in the form of a garage. 1/2 of the first floor of the apartment buildings is parking in the form of a covered garage. And in addition to that, we also have, as Jesse showed, some freestanding garages on site. In addition to that 177, we also have some surface parking spaces around. So we don't anticipate any overflow that would come off our site and influence the town in any way. We also, I'll talk about from this slide, we did a lot of work in the layout of the site as architects and Mark and his team on the site to really take advantage of what we have here. We've got great views of the back of the site, the wooded area, really excellent ponds here. So we've got buildings hugging this pond. We're really trying to give everyone a view that's nice. And on the front side of the site, it's off this slide, but there's that horsepower over there. So we really signed everything individually so everyone has a view of nature, which was a very important goal of the project. So these are getting a little more into the architectural drawings. When we get here, we've got a chart of counts by number of buildings, number of units which we've gone into. And we are also, we are very heavily 2-bedroom units in this. We have a couple 1-bedroom units, mostly in apartment buildings where they kind of fit better around an elevator or a lobby. And we have a couple 3-bedroom units, but it's 95+% 2-bedroom units that we're proposing.
And no requirements with a lit project to hit certain 3-bed count per se, like, or
So that's a good question. So normally with the chapter 40B project, there's a requirement that 10% 3-bedroom units, and that's, the idea of that is to encourage families with
Yeah.
children. For an age-restricted project, that's not.
And speaking of age restricted, like, is it both persons, people, or singular? Everyone has to be over 55 plus?
There has to be one resident. It's a matter of federal law. I believe it's 80% of the units have to be, for the minimum, have to be occupied by one resident, 55 plus. So both people don't have to be 55 plus.
Okay.
And if there's, if there's a grandchild who happens to live with the residents, that's allowed as well.
Yeah, I know that was something that came up in the Groton Hummingbird way, I think it was, like like,
So 55 plus could have school children in high school, for example.
That-
Would they be allowed?
That's right. There could be a small number of that, but it's statistically, it's not a significant number of projects like this. It happens sometimes, and we won't mislead anybody to say that it never does. And that's just to let you know, that's an issue of state law. They're not allowed to say no children. It's considered a age discrimination issue or familial status discrimination.
Even the units that are for sale are age restricted?
Yeah.
Not just the.
All the units for sale.
Yeah, that was,
Percent.
that was.
There are no rentals here, they're all.
Not, we could look at either way, but right now, they're for sale units.
What's the other for rental?
Well, we did present that was a typo, we will submit a slide deck after this to clean that up.
Both scenarios. Right now, they're for sale.
Okay, so you're not doing rental for the big ones?
It's not the intent right now. Okay.
This is a slide that shows a perspective of the community clubhouse building with the roof removed. So you come into a nice, generous L-shaped covered porch. We have an entry area. We have a variety of different seating areas. We have dining opportunities. We show a billiard table here, a big exercise room. We have a pool, certainly have changing rooms and bathrooms. And it's a really nice multi-use space, again, for our residents and for the town. And that's something that, as we move forward through the process, we can have conversations of it and we can work on that design a little bit as needed. But generous square footage in here that will accommodate both residents and visitors. A couple more views of this. Again, we've played with a variety of roof pitches, roof heights, the clear story on this building, the tower elements here, some stone facing, different siding colors, big sliding barn doors over here, crossbucks on doors, really trying to evoke that barn imagery, which I think is very fitting to the town and very fitting to the site in particular. And this shows a pure floor plan if you prefer. We do plans that way, again, the exercise room and various rooms that we have here. This is an example of a duplex. So 2 different units that they're sort of mirrored to each other. You have an entry here. They both have garages. 2-story units. Right now, everything that we're presenting to you is slab on grade. No basements anywhere. Not the garages, not the apartment buildings, single family or 2-family or the clubhouse for that matter. All slab on grade, all wood framed. This is floor plans of a typical duplex. So you have a garage where you can enter and have a mudroom component off that. If you were to come in through the driveway, through the entries, if you ask for, if you park outside or if you walk to the clubhouse or something, another coat closet when you come in, with powder room on the first floor, very generous kitchen with a dining area and the living room, and then upstairs, there's a first floor master suite, walk-in closet, master bathroom, master bedroom, and upstairs there's a second bedroom, essentially guest bedroom.
is it any variation in the bed size? It's just for a queen size bed, full size, king size?
There'll be king in the master and queen upstairs. Yep. Just more elevations sort of shows a single family.
And all these come with central AC, correct?
Yeah, they'll all be heated and cooled.
Gotta ask.
And they will most likely, just to go on some commentary for your previous meeting, they would be all electric heated and cooled, but I can tell you the technology we use today, if you are running all electric and you're having high heating bills, It's not resistance-baseboard heating that ran that way. Super efficient VRF systems. We're doing them in a lot of buildings, and it heats and cools very, very well. Low energy costs, and very good for greenhouse gas emissions and fossil fuel usage. And we're using them certainly in smaller buildings like the homes here. We're also using them in apartment buildings like this and even larger, and they're very effective. And the technology, if you haven't used it recently, it's come a long way. Go back 10 years, maybe even 5 years ago, when installing them in New England where it's cold, you'd have to do a backup heating system. They really couldn't handle those 10 degree, 5 degree, 0 degree days. They've changed the technology they can now. So we install them as our primary system, and they don't require backup anymore. So very, very effective, as well as, new buildings will be very well insulated, they'll be very well sealed, really controlling that airflow usage from inside and outside as we go through this. Single family version of the floor plan is really half a duplex. This apartment building, again, taking that same architecture, same aesthetic, gabled roofs, dormers, a lot of trim, belt lines, we have stone facing, stone that comes up in various areas. We do have some units with balconies. I'd say we've had maybe 25% of units will have balconies, so they'll have their own outdoor space, but it's not every unit will have that. We have a tower element that's introduced to each apartment building, so we're really trying to tie a common architectural theme to the site from that clubhouse through all the buildings that we have. This is the floor plans, again, 3 stories on this slab on grade. As you can see, half the first floor has pull-in garages over here, all apartments here. Each building has some form of lobby amenity space as well. So we still don't have that fully programmed yet, but we're doing a lot of, I feel like we have the exercise component fairly well covered in the clubhouse, but there's a real need for, work from home spaces that's maybe not your apartment, so maybe one gets a shared conference room or some pods or various ways. We'll be programming that as we go through the designs.
What about just like package delivery?
Well, every building will have package delivery. Yeah, package is super important. Everyone has packages. Everything comes from Amazon. I can tell you, I didn't cover this before. We specialize in multifamily, so we've got just packages galore. So we'll absolutely have USPS mailboxes, but we'll have the dedicated parcel storage room per building.
What's the square footage on these units?
They will be a 1-bed units, probably running about 700 square feet plus or minus. A 2-bed is running about 900 square feet, and a 3-bed is going to be 1,200 square feet.
Thank you.
This is the look at the freestanding garages, and we'll go to Mark. Do you want to cover site?
Mark's. David, Mark's on here. Good evening, everybody. My name is David Mackel, Kelly Engineering Group. We've been working with these guys on this site for a little while, and this is a great iteration of the plan that has chosen to come forward, working with Hawk Design. So at the stage we're at here, we're in the plan metric stage, but obviously as we move forward through the project, we'll be meeting with all the boards and commissions, listening to the great presentations before me. I'm just really going to focus on a couple of items that will enhance what was said before. I think all of the statistics as it relates to the site plan and the land has already been discussed. A few things that we just wanted to fill in the gap. So currently, I think we're saying that the project's about 68 acres, but currently there's about 75 or so, 74, 75 acres at the property. So part of the property actually comes all the way up here to the intersection of Low Street 113. And then we have, I think there's a single family house here. And then back here, there's the existing barn, and the access to the third curb cut on Wall Street. So as mentioned in the original presentation, we're really trying to keep everything in the back. So you'll notice all of this area here is not being touched for this project. So there's about 6.5 acres or so between the 2 residential frontages that would be left there. And then about 1.5 acres or so, I'm using very round numbers, for the DPW yard. So the whole land that's available is about 75 acres. 68 will be used for the residential development. So thinking of density and things like that, if you take the 68 acres and we have 156 units, it works out to be roughly 20,000 square feet or so per unit. if you're thinking about single family or comparing it to a house lot, each unit would get almost half an acre. So the way we have we have the standard roadway system. These are 24-foot driveways that come all the way around. As we work forward through the project, we sit down with the fire department and make sure that all of our building connections are appropriate, all of our access ways are appropriate. We do a lot of these. I think we have a good start at this. We've been working hard at it. So as mentioned, the next step, if the town chooses to engage with the developer, the next step is to file the 40B for the project eligibility letter. At that stage, we would enhance the civil engineering plan set a little bit more to show schematic drainage and schematic infrastructure. One thing that was missed, this project, I think we'll be using sewer treatment plant. One thing that I think that's gonna be located here away from everything else. As we move forward, we hire hydrogeologists and a company to do the package treatment plant, we call it. And we would coordinate with them directly. We reviewed the geotechnical report that was done for a previous project. The soils out here actually look pretty good. And groundwater, I think, is about 10 feet down.
That's off to the left, sorry. So if it's the C in civil site plan, is that sewer area or the treatment facility down there?
The treatment plan's right here where it says WWTP. That's the top of the area report. It's not 100% designed at this time.
If you put that down, you'll go down to your civil plan. Just
Okay. Oh, okay, well, this is all black and white. You like color. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And then for whatever happens to that DPW barn, are you gonna have, in a dream scenario, residents of this facility come in at the same path as a salt truck? Like a salt truck's huge in town, like that's a massive piece of equipment.
I think that's a great point. Right now, we can, there's a driveway that comes back here. And I think it's part of, as that we're working with the town, some has identified that as a need for the town. And whether that has to be a dedicated lane, maybe we could incorporate that. There is some other land up here near the house.
Okay.
If we felt we need to do that, I think what we would really do, the site will be designed so fire trucks could come right down there.
Yeah.
Usually moving vehicles as well. So we really need to be designed for trucks. So we don't think it would be a big deal for the DPW to use the same curb cut, the same driveway. But we would sit down with them to make sure the maneuvering rooms and everything are adequate.
With the DPW, this might be too far.
Yeah.
Weeds in the grass here, but
Yep.
whatever the phrase is. Would the goal be the town plows this area?
I don't
Or
think-
No, only their yard.
only their yard?
I'll address that.
Yeah.
That's too far down the road, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking long term.
So, at the level we're at now, we're willing to dedicate about 1.5 acres, 1.65 acres to reuse the existing building. And, I think we can show the salt shed up here.
Great.
And so the other things, there are wetlands, the darker areas here are wetlands. You'll see that we will need an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. That would just be the state order of conditions. Any local bylaw and or regulations would be listed and issued through the zoning board of appeals. Seeing that we're changing the use from a farm to residential, nutrients and loading would probably go down to the local water systems. We'd actually have a little bit cleaner, although we'll have some impervious here, but we'd work out all the drainage. In a site that's spread out and so heavily landscaped and so developed into the nature, we'd probably work a lot of rain gardens and low impact development techniques into the design, and then whatever we couldn't do there, we do maybe some standard ponding or some subsurface discharge. So these trail systems that are shown on here, and they're also shown on the other plans, they're incorporated to go to the backland as well, which I think there's already trails out there, and I think there are some other trails around. So the goal of developers is to have this be a public amenity spaces in addition to for the community. So at this time, so I think it was we have a nice package together, fairly low density when all things are considered, that you have 75 acres and you'll have over half an acre per unit. And some nice condominiums as well.
Do you know what that, if you look up the left-hand corner, there's like a circle, oval, actually farther up to the right. Keep going.
This one?
Next one. It's the last, see this? Higher up, yeah. What is that? Is that just a
Stormwater, targeted easement from the remaining land to potential stormwater.
Got it, okay.
So
It's like a natural swale basin.
we haven't gone that far into the details of the design, but we've thought about it enough that, this piece of land won't be part of the project, but we might take an easement to do a little bit of drainage.
Got it, okay.
So that's what those things are. We haven't quite shown, most likely, we haven't got that far into the hydrogeologist, but sewage disposal may go right under in the front lawn.
Yeah.
We don't have a target for it yet. We don't have the hydrogeological report. We don't know exactly how much surface area we're going to need. But the way those things work is generally you can put the sewer plant anywhere, and then we pump to the effluent disposal. So I think that, in the interest of time, I touched on everything that I think I wanted to touch on. Jim had mentioned that to take a look at endangered species. I don't think we have any endangered species within the development area here or within the lot. There are some adjacent, but we don't see any issues with endangered species on this parcel. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to the team or to the chairman for any questions.
Everybody pointer. I just want to touch on what got us here. So in 2018 or so, 19, the town had a need, and they were looking for this property for highway garage and some potential housing and solar and so on. So that got shot down at the ballot, and the town still needed a shed, right? So highway or Mike Martin or somebody did a study, and it was going to cost the town about $4 million at the time to duplicate that existing building that's on the property. So when I got on the board, it seemed logical to try and tie it up somehow for the town. We went through the Bright Farm hydroponic lettuce, who had a 480,000 square footprint. Seemed like it might have been a good idea for the town, and they hired a new CEO, and they changed the footprint to double. So that Dunstable was out of the equation. So they moved on. So the land still sat. I met with Borrego to see if we could load that parcel with solar and service the debt with the revenues from the solar, so the town could still wind up with the garage, and believe it or not, it still wouldn't cover it. So that's what brought us here. We purchased this with the intention to try and get this building back to the town and give them enough space for a salt shed. There is room enough to get low beds and anything in there, fire trucks, anything that you have, anything that is street legal will fit in and through there. So the items that I think benefit the town are that building, right? So if you're gonna duplicate it today, post-COVID numbers, it was 4 million prior. I don't know what it would be today, but it would be more. The water, there's 400,000 roughly in water revenue. We just put, what, 3.5 million into the water system that, everyone's screaming about their bills. And you've got a couple of people dropping off the water, so I think that helps it. It covers your open space and your gateway. To the north of the field right here at the other side is 113 McGovern Farm, and that's kind of a piece that I think everybody enjoys looking at it with nothing there after Carkin's house was taken down. We left that field and the land behind and around Cheney's tied into the former home, the cape that sits there vacant right now today, and it's not part of this project. So that can be left open. So we've got, so you touched on the garage. you've touched on water, open space in the back, age restricted. How do you drive revenue to the town without impacting the schools? And the only way that I can figure it out still today is with some age restricted housing, 55 and over. So you won't have that impact in the schools. And then the trails that we haven't, those are proposed. The whole goal was to think of a way to run pedestrian traffic through the property. And if we could pop out into the cemetery to Westford Street, so the Dunstable Cemetery is right, help me out with that. That's right there, right there? Cemetery's right here, actually. Jesse's showing, yeah, there's the cemetery. So this area here is where we would either dump that walking trail, or into Westford Street. So you could come from Lowell Street and get over to Westford Street or to the cemetery and get downtown from Hillcrest or Westford without having to navigate that stone wall on 113, which I think if you know what I'm talking about, it's not a real safe spot. That's kind of how we wound up here in a nutshell. Any major point that I'm picking up or missing?
How many affordable housing units is it?
25%.
So 25%, 39?
39.
So
What
39.
AMI are you aiming at?
Say that again?
What AMI are you aiming at?
It's 80% AMR.
80.
Okay. You have any idea what kind of figures you're looking at for
Retail?
resale?
We did like 2.5 studies. No, I believe there were low 6s maybe? I'm kind of spitballing there, but we do have this numerous studies that have that.
For the condominiums,
For the town.
for the town?
Do you, for a project of this size, there must have been a traffic study completed? Do you have an estimation of how many cars you anticipate going both down Wall Street? I would
Yeah,
cut
that's a
down that
traffic
way.
study in our deck somewhere.
I think we went over it.
I know they're common, but
Yeah, it's on the second to last page of the.
The other piece of this, I forgot, I went back up to it, is we talked about town road, town shed. It might not be the worst idea to have town-approved road, maybe up and past, into the development a little bit. And potentially work in a Mass Works grant with some sidewalks out on Lowell Street, maybe 113, and also some water line improvement.
Is that gonna be part of the project? The water line?
Could be if you roll into the Mass Works.
is there,
So this is the summary of the traffic impacts. And the traffic study was performed based on 150 units. And it added about, 20 to 40 trip hours in the peak hours. The conclusions are all right on that page, and that's part of the slideshow.
would you guys be able to share this with just our TA folks, just so we?
Yeah, I think he's just.
All right, cool.
You have it. and it was-
Oh, it's in here, all right, excellent. We'll get this back to you though.
You could keep it.
All right.
Open meeting law, turn it in. So if anybody didn't hear, the result of the traffic impact analysis is, it was done for 150 units, and it didn't have a significant impact on traffic at the front door or the regional intersections.
Yeah, because I know, right with Dunstable Animal Clinic is right there, and that beautiful barn, and that's a tough spot to.
It showed that they just, basically what they did was if you were heading west from Lowell Street and wound up at the stop sign across from McGovern Farm, it essentially showed moving the pole back a little bit.
Right.
and making cars turn a little bit more to the right.
So, yeah, perfect.
So in front of the Cheney homestead, kind of maybe moving that roadway out to curve or something to get the cars coming eastbound to slow down a little more and turn. It would be a bad idea anyway.
All those old people aren't gonna be able to turn their head to see the oncoming.
I drive those cars.
Turn their head
Look at
90
that.
degrees and then-
Tesla. Drive
That's
themselves.
required, you have to drive a Tesla.
That's very great.
Yeah, that's a tough spot.
It is a touch.
Do you think there'll be HOAs for these units? As in-
Yes,
Okay,
because we have to support that common area,
yep, okay.
right? You have to support your landscape, your snow.
Yeah.
Gotta be done.
I know friends of mine that live up at like Hildreth Heights and the Monadnock condos in Westwood, like their HOAs are like $800 a month for a 1,800 square foot place. It's just nuts. I mean, it changes the affordability, but I know that's part of the world we're living in right now. So.
Are there any other amenities there for as the 55 and older start to age? Or is it primarily just living space with?
Right now, no, but if you'd like us to include a nursing home somewhere, maybe we can do that.
No,
That is,
to some degree, it
not like
depends
a
where you are.
graduating place like Huntington Woods at the
I
school.
don't know.
No, to some degree, it depends where you are. I mean, if you're in the apartment buildings, they're flats, they're all elevated buildings, so there's no stairs involved in living in any of those units, so they'll function very well.
So are you?
And first floor master suites, sorry, first floor master suites in the single duplex home, so it is set up to have some component of an aging in place scenario.
Are you intending, you said that one building is supposed to be, like a senior center?
You're right, we do those some support spaces, in that there, and then usually, property like this, we'll do something with that community building to have some climate resiliency. It will have some sort of generators, or it has heat, it has power, we'll have extra power, so you can charge your phones in a snowstorm, or have heat if things go down, so we'll have that kind of element in that building.
Well, the other part of the common area building is when they tore down Peter George's barn, all of the beams that were salvageable and old brick and stone are over on Wall Street. So we can incorporate some of that into the finish inside that. I think that would add a little bit, to it.
And then I know for the previous, so the mud district process, they were going to sort of self-manage and, finding people to occupy the spaces. Is this something that your group is going to self-manage and selling, or are you going to have, like, I know you could use Chelmsford Housing Authority to help be your renter and your manager of affordable housing. How do you plan to?
Well, these are all for sale, so they'll be MLS.
Okay. And then, but how are you going to gatekeep who buys them?
So there's a lottery agent.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a state mandated lottery agent as part of the regulatory process, and that's
Okay.
covered by the agreement between the town and the subsidizing agency.
Yep, so as I know friends that wrote offers for the homes in Groton and basically got them even though they don't qualify. How does that, it ended up falling apart for another reason. So there's a process that you guys go through.
There's a monitoring agent with the lottery process. That what you're describing as a situation happens, may should not happen.
Okay,
But yeah, it's an annual reporting requirement, and you see who's living there, do they meet the income requirements and the
Okay.
asset requirements.
excellent.
Are the deed restricted to?
They are, yes. Yeah, the property itself is deed restricted.
The property itself, and then each individual deed for every unit as well. I know you said it's early in stage. Can you speak to the septic system or sewage treatment center or whatever it is you're thinking you're gonna have to do?
I think at this stage, we can only speak to the general notion that, with the units of 156, we're talking probably close to, 30,000 gallons a day. So you are automatically triggered into a
The treatment.
treatment plant. of some sort, and then on-site disposal into the ground. So it's a specialized field. I think that we haven't done a full, or commissioned a full hydrogeologic study to get the ball rolling on how we would dispose of it, but we have generally looked at the soils and.
Sand.
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 Right,
Sand.
so
So 24 feet of it.
we don't think we'll have a big problem finding, enough land to perk.
It's a matter of slowing it down
Yeah,
more than anything.
so historically, we had some tough sites that didn't have good soil, and one that we pursued a surface water discharge permit for a long time, and ultimately we couldn't get it. So we don't know if they're giving those anymore, so we feel pretty good about that, but that was another thing that we get vetted. It would start to get vetted right when we are submitting the eligibility letter to the state.
What else do they need from
So I
us?
reached out to Tingsboro to see if we could maybe incorporate a Mass Works grant or part of it and run the septic to Tingsboro and also take a water line with it, which would have benefited the town. And the answer was that right now that they have a massive problem with Bowl, because that's where it winds up. Every time it rains, they have to dump raw sewage into the Merrimack. And they're looking at a $500 million fix before they could even consider tying in another spot. So they're in tough shape. I did look at that angle.
It all flows downhill.
Yeah. No, I'm not opposed to an on-site treatment plant. I mean, if
It just would have
you're
been nice
pulling
to
water
know.
out of an aquifer, I'd rather see it go back into.
No, but it would have been great if you could tie water and run that out, all in the same, but just if it comes to question test, we do it then.
Bit of a better balanced water budget, keeping the water on site.
That's, I don't know.
Any questions, Ron?
No, I don't. You have, other than this, you have a timeline for all this? The schedule,
As far as what,
the entire project?
2 to 3 years?
You're phasing or doing it all at once?
What else do they need from us, Jason, right now? Anything? I know,
Yes,
I want to make sure we follow the right protocol for a LIP project. My first time going down this path, I think for many of us too. So.
So my understanding of the process, and Jesse, you can speak to this too, but is in order for them to apply to determine if the project is eligible, they need the board, the chief executive officer, to sign the application.
Mhm.
As part of the application, they need a letter of support signed by the chief executive officer as well. Once they get a determination on the project's eligibility, then they can pursue the special permit through the ZBA. That's my understanding of the town's involvement.
That's correct, with the one correction that it's an application for a comprehensive permit, not a special. So other than that, I couldn't have said it better myself.
How about the the conservation requirements? I know you spoke that it does break into the buffer zone in pieces or aspects. Do you need that approval before you get to
No.
that next step, or where does that come in terms
So
of?
the way that works, that would be a state permit that's the Wetlands Protection Act, Conservation Commissions, local conservation commissions administer the state's Wetlands Protection Act and the associated regulations. So we go to the Conservation Commission to obtain our order conditions under the state Wetlands Protection Act and the regulations supporting the Wetlands Protection Act. Any local regulations would come from either we would comply with them or we would list them as exceptions in the 40B application to the ZBA, which is usually what we do with all zoning and anything in the town that we can't comply with, we list it that we can't comply with those particulars. So a buffer zone project on a farm, I don't see any problem. We're not proposing to fill any wetlands. I see it as a positive impact to the fertilizers and other things that we get into the surface waters.
Well, it's not an active farm, there's really not a lot that's occurring there.
Could be.
It's been truck traffic more than anything for the past several decades. So is it your intention to try to comply with the local bylaws of the Conservation Commission?
We would always try to comply with as much as we can.
Well, there's not a significant amount of the property that falls within that, mainly around the pond.
Yeah,
I couldn't read the fine lines, but you had two lines going. I saw the 100-foot buffer zone. What was that next line in?
Is that the 100-year floodplain, is that, we were outside?
yeah, there's a couple lines, all of the development that we've shown is outside of the floodplain as well.
Right,
Yeah, that's good.
And you know what, I'm gonna have to be honest, I did not review the local bylaw and regulations yet. And that would get flushed out with, when we're putting together, not even the eligibility letter, it would really be the complement to the ZBA, where we reviewed in the public forum all of the local bylaws that we can't comply with.
Are the plans as presented, are they far enough along for you to submit? Are you ready, my question, I guess, is, are you ready to submit an application based on where you're at with the design?
We are, yeah, the Pell application to the HCD it's a very much, not even probably a 30,000 foot view, it's maybe 50,000 foot view. Really just very broad strokes of what you're proposing and where. So yeah, we're far enough along, we're not far enough along for the zoning board appeals process. In between those, we'd be sharpening our pencils and looking at exactly what provisions of the local bylaws the project complies with, and for all projects like this, we do our best to try to comply with the local bylaws to the maximum percent possible.
So then what's our status quo, I guess, as a board? I mean, I'm the one who has to sign the letter, so I want to make sure I do what is in the best interest of the board and the town, so.
This tonight?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think, Jason? What should we take another meeting? We don't have it as a voting item on the agenda.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some thought that I think should be given by the town in terms of, I mean, they've made a presentation. I think there is, I mean, as part of the, correct me if I'm wrong, but as part of this process, there is an opportunity to provide feedback on the plans as proposed. So, you know, if you like the idea of walking paths or more recreation in terms of, you know, building them out more or putting them in a different spot. I mean, there is an opportunity, I think, to have some additional dialogue on potential town benefits, I think, if there was interest from the board in that. And it's not on the agenda tonight as a voting item, so it's just giving that some thought, given, you know, the team will send me an updated presentation. I'll share that with the board. We can put it on a future agenda for
Would that be
consideration.
agreeable to your team, like on March 9? We could take a vote on this and then get back the cleaned up decks. You could always say no. It's up to you. And then I think we as a board and probably our friends here need to discuss the DPW, that barn and where that path takes us and what that means to us, and what it means to the people presenting their project. So we should figure out the best vehicle for discussing that real estate topic. I think March 9th would give us some time to get the updated figures and things like that from you guys, but hopefully with some of the questions we've had tonight, maybe, you know, they've been interesting to you guys, at least to a degree. So I may think of some more though, so. There's a lot of you too, which is impressive. It's like a gang.
More of them than there is on our live stream.
I know, that's awesome. Before I finish up with these guys, any questions from the public? Just ones that aren't too in-depth that get us too far off track, but All right, I tried.
What are you trying for?
I just want to make sure everyone felt like they were heard.
There was a request online to be able to see the presentation because they couldn't see it.
Okay. Yeah, if they're comfortable with, sharing even, or high level pictures and things like that, I'll leave that up to the applications. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just submit an amended deck change for rental type of stuff.
Yeah. Great.
March 9th.
Yeah, March 9th, let's aim, and we'll pick a time that night to either have the whole team back, or if you have some delegates that want to come and meet with us, that's fine too. So, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, I appreciate it.
Before you go on to this, I just have one question, we should have a fairly easy answer. Mud zone requires planning board. State law says a little bit, it's zoning board. How would you resolve that?
Say it again, sorry.
Okay. Our mud zoning requires a planning board to give the permit.
Yep.
State law, 40B law says zoning board of appeals. You've got a conflict there between our bylaw and the state, and I understand the state overrules, but how do we resolve that?
Why don't we get them both to agree with the project?
That, do we joint meet, put them both together,
Well,
planning and zoning?
or the hierarchy of it is, I think it's state, and state says ZBA, right? Yeah, so I would love to have, in an ideal world, planning board be on board with the project, NCO in this case, and then ideally ZBA would get the chance to kind of carry it forward, because that's probably the proper path. If that's not agreeable, then I think you have to default to the state's guidelines for an affordable housing project, right?
I've been find out from Brian. I think we need to run it by town council, but my initial instinct would be that the ZBA issues a comprehensive permit under the state law. I think that's what would need to be done. Do you know if the local zoning was meant to require supplemental approval, or was it just like an error? Or just an inconsistency with state law?
I don't know, it got approved.
Yeah.
And the zoning got approved by Attorney General.
Yeah, just sometimes intent matters, you know what I mean?
So, as far as I'm concerned, we spend a lot of time doing special zoning and special, voting on that mud district.
Yeah.
First of all, to buy it, and second of all, to zone it, and decide what we wanted on it, and talk a lot about it, and that's the way the bylaw is written, so. It's, if you want me to take this project to the planning board, I'm more than happy to do that, and beat them all over the head with it.
Oh, don't beat up Joan, she's right here.
But I know Joan is already for it. Joan and I confer quite a bit.
It's a good question. Well, I'll do some work on it.
Yeah, let's just find out.
We just need to have an answer on that before we do it.
Definitely.
Okay.
We're gonna say hi to our new state representative. If you want to come up front and center.
Thank you.
I'm gonna run the men's room, even though it's fun to say on live TV, but you guys can have
Haven't had any drink before.
Ron, very good to see
Margaret,
you
nice to see you
again.
too.
A pleasure. as
Hi,
always
Margaret, good to see you.
Jason, we haven't met. Thank you for all the communication.
Yeah.
And Margaret,
Hello, Sue.
Sue, nice to meet you. This is nice and cozy up here.
Yes, it is.
And that is a very big project.
That is a very big project.
Is this the first time you're seeing it?
Yes.
Sorry I missed the beginning of it, but, yeah. And I missed how long they said they thought it would take 2 to 3 years.
3 years.
to
3
go
years,
through.
yeah.
When is 113 supposed to be done?
Last November.
Contract, no,
Did you say last November?
Last November.
No, I think
Contractually.
August, right?
this August, but they're about 8 weeks ahead of schedule.
Yeah, so they're
Wow,
doing very
ahead of
well.
schedule, all right.
And so far, the weather is, they're probably able to get going early,
I
hopefully.
don't know, it's no Saturday.
Yeah, nothing on Saturday. Although I haven't heard any totals yet.
Yeah, it's gonna be a heavy snowstorm.
Heavy.
Mm.
Not time to put the snow blower away.
No.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, winter kicked in about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
When everyone thought it was over,
Yeah,
right?
Well,
Exactly, I know.
I don't know what percent of the population I'm in, but I love winter, so it's like.
yeah, you're pretty small.
I only know one other person like you.
I like winter better, I'll take it. I'm a winter person.
Mm. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Send you my oil bill.
Yeah, thanks. I cut that cord a long time ago.
Well, I should have brought some jokes or something at the time, but, oh, good. Phew. We were just talking about your big project here.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one. Both of them.
Well, we've got two. So there was the one that was earlier on, the one over in the Mud District, which we've been trying to pull together for many, many years. And the woman behind you, this is
I
her.
practically own it by now.
You pretty much own it. This is, I think she's finally reeling in her white whale here. So, this is Carol Bacon. She's on the Affordable Housing Committee, and Historical Commission, and
CTC.
CPC, many things. She's on many things.
So MUD, you mean the mixed use overlay?
The
Okay.
mixed use district behind where our post office is.
Oh, okay, we call it an overlay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, maybe you just,
So there were two proposals to the RFP to put in projects. These are them here.
wow.
One was 48 individual cottage units and the other.
44 and 59.
44.
Wow.
So both were really good proposals. After our third go-around? Fourth
Yeah.
go-around of trying to get respondents.
Oh, my.
And we finally landed with two great ones. So it was a
Do you think that's because people are so busy that maybe they didn't want a smaller project or?
I think it's because of the smaller project
Yeah,
aspect of it in general.
certainly, I think the size, and then it's, a project in Chelmsford is closer and more profitable at this time, but there's not a lot of available land in Chelmsford now that they don't have projects going on already. And
Yeah,
you're seeing it in Groton as well, like Groton, Pepper, all these towns now, it's like, all right, well, the next best option is farther out, goes
Yeah.
on the New Hampshire line, and people are working from home, so if you only have to go to Boston twice a week, you do anything 2 days a week. Drive, you drive to Boston, right?
Yes, I
You can
do.
do anything a couple of days a week, but like,
yes, yeah,
so these little farm towns become really attractive, I think.
yeah.
But a couple of them are good, a couple of those ideas in there, and the village concept is good, so.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for letting me come before you just to say hello. I've worked with you, I know you, but I think just more formally to say, I remember on the campaign trail talking about how I had a special place in my heart for Dunstable and Ashby. There's something just about how quaint both of these towns are, and was really committed to working hard for you to let you know that you weren't forgotten, that I'm very much committed to, to bringing things home for the town, and have been working hard to do that. As you know, I was sworn in on the 18th of January. I didn't get my computer until about midday on the 19th, which was a Thursday, and bill filing, the deadline was 5 on Friday, and I did not have an extension, but I managed to get 9 bills filed. which also included learning the law system to file the bill. So I think 9 was a great achievement. And all of those are really focused on needs of these towns, including full funding for the regional bus transportation. 5 of the 6 towns in the district are a regional school system. We all know how the education budget is such a large part of the general fund budget, and transportation is a large part of that, and not having that funded at 100%, which is what was promised, has always been a problem for our towns. So I wanted to make sure and get that filed. Relatedly, there used to be a regional school caucus at the State House, and that kind of was defunct. So I sought out the former chairs. That has been reinvigorated. We'll be meeting week after next. And so that's a chance for all the representatives, the senators and reps from the regional school systems to talk with one voice versus just having one town talk about problems that they have with lack of budgets or funding or whatever. So I think that will help give us more of an impact. The other bills that I filed a lot of them were at the request of constituents, including the fire chief and Pepperell. There was funding, an application for the Townsend Charter, which hadn't been able to get through, so I refiled that bill, and for our rail trails. I am happy to be a member of a lot of different caucuses, including a rail trail caucus, a zero waste caucus, the regional schools, as I mentioned, a central mass caucus, which is also great because that's an even larger consortium of small towns with really distinctive small town needs that can be a bigger voice and a bigger advocate as far as legislation and, again, earmarks and funding. And, I think that's important because I do think our state does a great job of dealing with issues of large cities, certainly our gateway cities, but it seems like towns like ours, we're sometimes left out. So I think this caucus is a great way to try to address that. And I was very lucky. As a legislator, you're allowed to submit 3 requests for committees to be on, and usually you get 1 of your 3. I got 2 of my 3, and then I was assigned a 4th one. So community development and small business has always been a focus of mine from when I was running the downtown revitalization program in AIR to when I was on the Pepperell Select Board and trying to build regional opportunities because there's so much potential in those. I'm on the municipalities and regional government, so kind of a twin sister to small businesses and community development. Emergency preparedness and management. My daughter is a first responder, so that was a great fit. And then the last one is advanced IT, the internet and cybersecurity, which is actually a great opportunity for me to learn because I'm sort of old school when it comes to technology, and it's more like handing my phone to my daughter, how can I get this app on or whatever. So I'm looking forward to that. It's budget season. Bills have been filed. You can still late file. They're not as likely to get a committee hearing. But my team and I have also been working very hard on reviewing the 4,000 plus bills that were filed to co-sponsor those, which gives them some added weight. I've reached out to Jason. You probably haven't had a chance to read that, just to sit down and talk with you to learn about what Dunstable's priorities are budget-wise, so that we can either, beyond the school system, which I think we know that's a big issue right now, but what else could we potentially secure earmarks for, or through another, transportation bond bill, just to understand the needs. I'll be meeting with the chair of Ways and Means mid-March to bring forward those requests to him and to advocate for them. So just let me know when you're ready, or if you want it to be a full board discussion, I'm happy to come back. But really just wanted to say hello.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work, and just looking forward to a great 2 years ahead of us to get things done.
Cool. Where do things like, is chapter 90 funds come up as transportation, right?
Yes.
I know that's a group that's often under appreciated here, but roads are really expensive. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like, I know schools are a huge part of our budget, but some of our roads are just wrecked right now.
Yes.
I know they are in Pepperell. I know they are in Groton. Like, there's roads that, you wouldn't walk on.
Exactly.
Because they're so bad.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I know it's tricky for towns because how do you prioritize, or do you rip it all up and then get a reset and then do culverts and all that water management things? So,
Well, yeah, the Woodward Mill Dam, that's something that
yeah, like we have a dam that
we
needs.
may need some help.
Yes, absolutely, like, beyond funding, looking for grants or trying to connect you with other funding sources. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we're here for. So, yeah, definitely.
A school that needs a roof. I know it's a school, but like it's a failing roof. There's,
The Swallow Union?
yeah, there's literally water that goes into it when it rains, into the
Yes.
gym.
Yeah.
Or when we're having a meeting there.
Yeah.
And, PFAS, I know, which is,
Oh,
I read
yes.
that earlier
Yeah.
tonight, and I'm just,
Yeah,
we're tier 1, right? Like, that's our tier, and that means we get a fine like every day if we don't get it up to snuff.
yeah.
As a
Yeah, I
school
mean,
district.
that's an emerging problem for all the towns, like, Pepperell has it, you have
Yeah.
it, Townsend has it. They just committed, I want to say 19 million to build a treatment plant. Air just invested a lot of money to do that. I mean, when you're looking at small budgets, they are already so constrained and you have so many things deferred, like building maintenance and
Mhm.
roads. It's like, where do you come up with that money? And I feel like the state really has to step up and be a partner there, because that's a big failure point.
Yeah.
It is,
Otherwise-
it breaks towns like this, that exceeds our entire budget.
Oh, yes.
A couple times over,
Yes.
sometimes.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's great to have you here. I mean, I know the previous representative was in place for a while, but, unfortunately she wasn't always able to come here. It's always welcome to come to a meeting. I saw that you have some office hours coming up, so.
Yes,
Sounds
very
great as well, so.
excited. March 20th from 4 to 5. We just had our first one tonight in Groton, and I actually brought some work. So it's like, oh, who knows who'll show up? And somebody literally came in at 5:55.
Oh.
You have 4 minutes because I have to go. So very excited, and the town was so accommodating about, letting us use the town hall. We're grateful for that, and yeah, very
And
excited.
that's in Groton.
Right, that was,
The
Tonight's
person was in
Groton.
Groton tonight,
And
yes.
we have one planned for Dunstable,
Yes, on March 20th.
and we're gonna publicize that really well.
It's on the website.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, Senator Kennedy came, but it was like 15 minutes before, like he was going to be here, that like people found out about it.
Oh,
Which was really a disappointment
Yeah.
for
Mm.
quite a few residents who reached out, and some on Facebook. Were like, did you know about this? I'm like, I did
We
not.
didn't.
Like, I had no
yes.
idea.
He should have told us after he was here.
yeah.
So we'll, and we want people to come and learn to get to know you, and that helps you and it helps us, and same for his office. How else you get elected? You gotta get to know people and hear what people have going on. So.
Yes, I know he'll be back, and I'm sure, like, there's so much when the session just starts up. I'm sure it just dropped through the
Yeah,
cracks
it happens.
somewhere, but yeah, he'll be back, and I will too. We're gonna do it monthly.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
The redistricting, what towns did you acquire and what dropped out?
So we had one precinct in Air, and
Yeah.
that went back to the 37th, so we don't have any of Air.
Okay.
We lost one precinct in Groton, which went to the 37th, that Air Shirley district, that's Rep. Sena's. We kept Pepperell, Dunstable, Townsend, and Ashby as whole towns. And then we gained the 3 precincts in Lunenburg that had been part of, I forget what district, but they're now part of the First Middlesex. And Rep. Kushmerik has the 2nd precinct in there. So
That's
it's kind of
strange to
nice
split
in
up
a way. Well,
Why is that? I was just thinking
Yeah.
the same thing.
I feel like to take out Air and one of Groton and add in 3 of Lunenburg, would it have been the same if you just left it and maybe gave me 1 in Lunenburg? But
So you still have a port? You have-
Yes, 2
okay,
precincts
two
in Groton.
precincts in Groton still.
So Groton was, I think they were, I could generally say upset at the beginning when they learned that they were,
Getting
now,
split up.
because it's like, oh, now we're split. But
It just doesn't
honestly,
make sense.
they've come to think of it as, oh, well, now we have two representatives. Two people advocating for
Yeah.
something. And
Well,
I
that's
think
interesting.
I have good relationships with all of the reps and the senators. Senator Cronin is also in the district because of Lunenburg and Townsend, and now Groton. Senator Kennedy lost Groton, but very happy to keep Dunn, I can tell
No,
you.
we're happy to have him too.
Yes. And he's been good with the funding. He's been really capable at helping to secure funding. So I have him as a partner. Senator Cronin is fairly new. He's in his second term. Senate's new, second term, Kushmarek. But Senator Kennedy has been around for a while.
Yeah.
It's great to be in a partnership with them as well.
Well, he was very helpful when we were absent a representative for almost a year. He was quite helpful in pushing some of the bills that were stagnant for up to 3 years.
Yes,
Finally get pushed through.
exactly.
May still have like a special bylaw for the town administrator that comes up for the spring. That might be something that we rehash because it didn't pass in the fall.
Yeah, we need to.
Is that making him report to you, or what is that?
Solidifying the role, because Jason's here now, his role is defined by a.
He has no idea what his job is.
Well, I mean,
You're doing well.
so it's defined by job description that we wrote with our town council, but it's not actually defined by a law or statute.
Oh, interesting.
Because we don't have a
Job
charter
only
or
exists
anything.
in paper.
Okay.
So
Yes.
it would really help give us some structure. So it's going to be something we went through many iterations. Leah knows from her time on our governance committee, and it finally came out to being a special act bylaw for the TA role.
Yeah, went through, started off, we were going to do a charter that included several different things, and then over 2.5 years of discussions, it finally ended up just being a bylaw for the TA position.
Interesting.
So, yeah, we still have a little work to do on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, any way that I can help, happy to do that.
We got to get it past the town meeting first, and then
Well,
we'll kick it out to you.
We all have to come to agreement first too. So, yeah, we have a little work to do. Yeah, just, it's all good.
We have some liquor license. We got the liquor licenses, but we will be working with ABCC soon to get those rolling, I guess is the way to phrase it. But
Did we get our select board renaming? Where isn't that at the?
That was in
so we're still Board of Selectmen.
He asked to change our name.
Oh,
Well, that was part of the TA thing that got defeated.
Oh, it was mixed in with that? Is that what that?
They did, because they only wanted to present one special act to the legislature. That was the recommendation by town council, so.
see, Pepperell voted, the board just took a vote and said, we're changing our name. And then when luckily we were redoing the charter and we just said, hey, change Board of Selectmen to Select Board throughout global search and replace.
Yeah, well, you had the charter already set up to be able to do that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's
The
what,
powers
At that
are in the
point,
board's
then you
hands.
can.
Yeah. maybe think about separating it. I can't imagine.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have to do something. Because
We don't
Yes.
want that to languish the way it is. It's mixed in with that other thing, which I don't know how that, but
Well, it wasn't initially, but it
yeah.
got
I
switched
remember
up
that.
through town council review.
Yeah, that worked.
We'll just go with select ladies instead. for a while.
That's all encompassing.
That's right.
I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. Just got to show up.
That's right. Just go up. Call me whatever you want.
Yeah, doesn't matter to me. Well, no, thank you for coming. That's it's great to have you. So.
Well, thank you for having me. You have my number, call me, shoot me an email,
We will.
and I'll be back.
Thanks.
Great.
All right.
Very good. Drive safely.
I will, thank you.
The only other thing on our agenda was our town administrator report. Are you feeling well enough to give said report, or do you want to duck and run? You're allowed to.
I can do
If I was
it.
an offender vendor,
I'll do
right?
it quick.
Okay.
Real quick. Because some of this you already know, so, I'll just hit the highlights. The bandstand earmark, we actually received approval to move forward with that. Karen, you need to sign a grant.
Yep.
Agreement for us to do that. And the electricity portion was included in the budget for the earmark, which is a beautiful thing, so.
Yeah, but how much of that earmark is actually gonna be able to be used to rehab the bandstand? The earmark was, how much was it?
$75,000.
$75,000.
Yeah.
You're gonna spend all of that just making the bandstand fixed.
Well, it depends what we fix and what needs to be fixed, you know. We are, I mean,
Make it
it's possible.
work. Just
Yeah,
make it
yeah,
work.
you're gonna,
Yeah.
there are some things that are just not going to get done.
That's probably true.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
the,
probably true.
the roof needs to get done, and that's a white cedar roof,
Okay.
and that's gonna take up 60 grand.
No.
Oh, you bet. Strip those shingles off, put a membrane on, and then re-shingle it.
Small roof?
You watch.
Does it have to be white shingle?
Yeah, I think it
Shingles?
does. I think it's gotta be, what do you put up, the asphalt shingles?
Slate, well, just the ones that fall off
That's
here.
even, we'll take those over there.
Well, we'll have to come up with, I mean, the project's gonna have to be bid, and so,
Yeah, and how is that bid document gonna get in that
I,
75,000?
we'll
Well,
probably,
signature for the
That's right.
contractor.
that's right. And we'll probably be able to pay for it from the
Okay.
grant.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I'm just saying, don't think that it's gonna
I was
get,
like, what do I
because there was talk about putting a handicapped ramp up there and everything else. and that- Some of that's not gonna happen. It's not handicap accessible.
All right. Yippee. You don't sound all that optimistic with this project.
No, well, I'm optimistic about having enough money. to
He
get the
sees
roof
you.
done.
I know you're
I
there.
think that should be the focus.
Yeah, because the water is dripping into the building, it's gotten into the light fixtures.
Okay.
And then I end up spending time over there straightening out all the light fixtures, and there's gotta be an end to that.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna have Joan ask her question.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have talked to Jason about this, but, because the selectmen oversee the town common, CPA money cannot be used. And I think you need to have a serious conversation about the pros and cons of leaving it that way if it's in the hands of the recreation, then CPA money could be used there.
Just the
So-
gazebo, or the town common,
What's that?
the whole town
The whole
common.
thing.
Yeah, just, I mean, they're already, in charge of, the landscaping, the maintenance, the gardens, all that kind of stuff. But what they don't do is schedule, whatever happens to go on there. So, I believe that's when I spoke to, my buddy at the coalition, that's what he said. He said, if it's not under the auspices of recreation, then you cannot use CPA money for, recreation purposes.
Even undesignated funds?
What's that?
Even the undesignated
I
funds?
said it's a town common.
There's only 3 things you can use.
What else do you do there but recreate? And, he
What's the point?
doesn't have none of it. So, anyway, I think you ought to seriously, just think about the pros and cons of leaving it the way it is, because, if recreation, oversaw that, what goes on there, I believe CPA money could be used to do whatever needs to be done there.
Interesting.
And we may need to think about what kind of shingles we use on the roof as well. 60
How
grand, I mean, that's,
about a nice metal roof?
yeah, right?
Oh, yeah. That'll look real good.
The capital planning committee is meeting tomorrow morning at 8:00. I'm hoping that at the end of that meeting, I'll have a better idea of what their recommendations are and be able to get the board a proposal for ARPA funds and capital requests. So
Okay.
for you to consider and, go from there. Radar conversion's ongoing. I sent that email about the PFAS issue at the high school about 2 weeks ago. Finally heard back from the town manager in Groton today. He has scheduled a meeting at next Wednesday, the 8th, at 11 o'clock in his office. And in the email, he said that both the select board and water commission in Groton would want to pursue the quote-unquote Groton water solution. So that's what.
Do we know what the Groton water solution is?
I
yet?
certainly don't know the detail of the Groton water solution.
I don't think we do either.
So, so I'm looking forward to learning more about that on Wednesday. And he also expressed some concern with working with the town of Pepperell. So more to come on that. But that's where we're at.
Yeah, that one's,
Groton
yeah.
water solution.
I know we can't necessarily, I think we have to be very tactical in terms of what we get ourselves into with this project, because A, it has to be remedied. B, I just think there's, I think residents would benefit from, these Dunstable residents particularly would benefit from water access up that route there, because some of their water is really contaminated. But I don't think the contamination levels are the same on the Groton side. I don't know.
It doesn't exist on the Groton side.
Right. I mean,
But we don't, I mean, to be fair, we don't know that yet.
What?
Where the limits of the contamination is.
Oh, no, we do.
No, they have to follow it.
Who?
They're
still studying it. They're still following
It
the plume.
depends on how the plume flows.
Right.
Yeah.
There's mapping that picks out where that plume is at this point.
But it's going to be going on for years.
It is, but absent of that.
I thought they still have to, they know the properties with the wells that have contamination at unacceptable levels for drinking water.
Mhm.
But there still is a lot of environmental testing that needs to happen in order to determine the exact limits of the contamination, I believe.
Well, it's the soil testing that she has talked with us about. But, okay, let's just forget that for a second. Let's go back on this Groton water solution.
Sure.
Where is the comprehensive water solution? This is a question, okay? But there's a comprehensive water solution that was discussed with Groton, okay? Which was Pepperell supplying temporary water over a temporary water line to the district, okay? And then we were going to tie in Dunstable into the Pepperell water system so that Pepperell would not have to shut down a second well of theirs, all right? And there were some other aspects of it that were really a very comprehensive look at it, right? And Groton's water line was 5 or 6 miles away from the high school. In order to make that water line work, they would have to put in a chlorination plant because the water would age out in the pipe and lose its chlorine value, right? So if Groton wants to take this on and pay for this entire thing themselves and not come to Dunstable looking for any money, I guess that's an okay fix.
But they're not going to do that because it's the school, so we're going to still get our 23% hit.
but we're already paying the water bill at the school to 25%.
Yeah.
Why, if we
We're
don't,
not getting out of this.
We
for
don't
free.
pay a water bill at the school.
No, we pay into the budget. of the
as to the
school.
budget, or the access.
Whatever they do, we're
It's like
going to have to
electricity.
pay a portion.
The school right now is fed from wells, so there's no water expense. Okay, but the operation of the wells is part of the operating assessment. I get that.
It's another overhead cost for the school, just like electricity.
But now they're
Right.
gonna have a Groton water solution, which was not feasible in all the discussions we had at Groton with the state. So now I don't know what's going on. There's some confusion here. But as I say, if they want to pick up the tab for it, God bless them, let them take care of it.
They've hired an
Engineer.
engineer of their own to review potential solutions to the problem. And I think there has been some review, I don't know to what extent, of options that exist. I still don't understand, because we have a main that goes down 113, I think, to Groton Street, essentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that we couldn't bring the water line down Groton Street.
Yeah, it's too long of a run.
It's not as long as Groton.
It's shorter than Groton.
I don't know, we could, so this is what, I think we should have.
They gave us a schematic that showed that.
Tigan
months
Bond.
ago,
I think it's less of a run than Groton.
Yeah, but
That
of
was my
all
understanding.
of the options that were available, the Pepperell one was substantially less. Because it picked
Right.
up the water line on Jersey Street and took it to the back of the high school
They have a
along
cross-
with the sewer.
That's right. They have a cross-country easement.
Yeah, and they were like, that was the best of all the options because it was the shortest way to get it resolved. And so I'm sitting here today going, okay, what happened to all this? It's all getting, we're gonna have a Groton solution. And if that's, I'd like to go to that meeting because Mark's gonna hear it, that if they wanna pay for all that, we can start tomorrow.
So what I was, I think, by the school district was that there's a temporary fix where Groton will truck water to the schools.
And who's paying for that?
And then,
We are.
That's great, but what are the numbers and why can't we truck water to the school? We got a plant over here that's been rejuvenated for however long ago. Why can't we do that?
I think that's a fair question.
And so now there's gonna be these water buffaloes going in there with water to the school district, and I guess we're just gonna pay the bill.
You're going to this meeting?
I was invited to it, yeah. I was planning to.
Is anyone else invited to, are we invited to this meeting? One of us are, so we don't want to make it a meeting, but.
Yeah, I mean, if someone wants to.
Yeah, I'd like to join that. Send me the invite, because I'm not signing on to the thinking that we're just gonna tag along here, get in the back seat and go for a ride.
Just jump in the pool.
Yeah. People.
There are definitely questions that. I have.
A reach with that joke.
So I sent an email out. We put some draft policies together based on some conversations and feedback at prior meetings. So if you could take a look at those, just if you have any feedback or comments or anything. We also put together a draft social media policy. Once we get review and adoption of that, we'd like to start official kind of town presence on Facebook to begin, and then maybe grow from there. I am soliciting quotes right now from some municipal finance firms for assistance with reconciling our cash. Hasn't been done.
That still hasn't been done.
Hasn't been done since July. And I don't want to let it go any further, so I'm in the process of doing that right now, and we're gonna have to get someone on board in order to catch up.
Yeah, any means necessary.
And I'm also working, liquor licenses came up. I'm gonna have a kind of a packet to review and consider in terms of just backup materials necessary to facilitate the application for liquor licenses locally. So that's close to being ready for your eyes. It should be, if we have room on the next agenda, it should be ready for that. And then we can kind of figure out a path from there.
Yeah, it'd be good to have the police chief's perspective, because I hadn't thought of the single serve concept, and he said that, and I got such a good point. You don't want people just firing down a 24 ounce, 10
Road
10 ABV beer on the ride home, just because we don't want that on our streets.
No, we did have a meeting with the police chief, fire chief, building inspector, me, and Sue, to go over kind of roles and responsibilities.
Okay, cool.
He did, at that meeting, he did share his desire to restrict both single service beer and nips. So, and we can do that under the law, so.
Okay.
Good.
Cool.
It's a single service beer.
Just,
Like buy one instead of
just
six.
buy a can of
Yeah.
beer Yeah.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah, one you could just crack open in the car easy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I guess you could do it with that with a 6-pack of bottles too, but it's just,
Your intention is different when you just buy one.
question from the audience?
What about nips?
Yeah, that would be part of the, yeah, can't do that. Yeah, then they're all over our streets, which is great, so.
Yeah.
That's enough for me.
All right, it's enough, it's enough.
The one other thing is, we had a couple residents, they reached out to me individually supporting the MCO project. I won't share their names, they didn't really say, go ahead and do that, but
Yeah, there's been a few that have
there's
come
been a few
in.
that have supported that project, so. Any other questions from our audience members? I will look for another motion. That means we get to
To adjourn?
sign off, yeah?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks all.